What if the prophecies in Revelation are not random disasters scattered through time, but carefully measured movements within God's eternal purpose? What if every seal that is opened, every rider that appears, every shaking of the heavens follows a rhythm set long before the foundations of the world? When history feels chaotic and overwhelming, this perspective changes everything. Revelation is not a strange appendix to Scripture. It is the final movement of a single story that began in Genesis, a story about creation, rebellion, redemption, and restoration. From the garden to the city, from the first breath of life to the final renewal of all things, the same God is at work, governing time with intention and meaning. At the center of this unfolding drama stands the Lamb who was slain. He is not a passive observer of history. He is the one who holds authority over it. Until he takes the scroll, nothing moves forward. The seals remain unbroken. The destiny of creation waits. When the Lamb steps forward and opens the seals, history does not spiral out of control. It advances according to God's purpose. Judgment and mercy, suffering and hope, discipline and restoration all move together under his authority. What appears chaotic on the surface is guided by a divine hand beneath it. Welcome to Simple Verse Deep Truth. I am Pastor Najim. In the ancient world, sealed scrolls carried legal weight. A sealed document represented ownership, inheritance, and authority. Only the rightful heir could open it. When the Lamb takes the scroll and breaks its seals, it is a declaration that he alone has the right to reclaim creation. This is not about destruction for its own sake. It is about restoring what was lost. It is about transferring the deed of the universe from corruption back to righteousness. From a first-century perspective, this imagery spoke clearly. God was not absent. God was acting. God was reclaiming what belonged to him. Throughout Scripture, God reveals himself as a God of patterns and appointed times. In the Hebrew Scriptures, time itself is structured around meaning. The sabbatical year, known as Shemitah, comes every 7 years, allowing the land to rest and debts to be released. The Jubilee or Yovel arrives after 7 cycles of 7 years, bringing freedom, restoration, and return. These cycles are not arbitrary. They reveal a God who weaves mercy and justice into the fabric of time. Even the word ot, meaning sign, appears again and again to show that God places markers within history to reveal his purposes. Revelation continues this pattern. It does not invent a new theology of time. It draws from the same well. Daniel speaks of weeks that measure redemptive purpose. Ezekiel uses days to represent years. Leviticus outlines cycles of blessing and discipline. Jesus himself points back to these patterns when he speaks of the end. Revelation gathers these threads and weaves them together into a final tapestry. The 7 seals are not isolated images. They echo the entire story of Scripture, revealing how God deals with humanity across generations. The first 4 seals introduce riders on horses of different colors. These riders represent recurring realities within a broken world. A white horse appears first, carrying a rider with a crown and a bow. He goes out conquering. This image immediately raises questions. Later in Revelation, another rider appears on a white horse, clearly identified as Christ. This earlier rider imitates that image. The bow suggests power exercised from a distance, influence that persuades or subdues without open confrontation. In Scripture, bows often symbolize deceptive or indirect power. The crown is given, not seized, showing that even deceptive authority operates within God's permission. This rider reflects humanity's constant temptation to place hope in false peace and false security. Empires rise promising order and stability, yet their foundations are flawed. Historically, this image would have resonated with Roman conquest, but its meaning reaches beyond any single empire. It speaks to every age in which power presents itself as salvation. The warning is clear. True victory does not come through conquest or control. It belongs to the Lamb alone. The second seal releases a rider on a red horse. Peace is taken from the earth and people turn against one another. Violence erupts. Blood is spilled. Red is the color of broken covenant and unrestrained conflict. When humanity rejects God's order, division follows. This is not merely political conflict. It is relational, social, and spiritual breakdown. Scripture repeatedly connects violence with covenant failure. When love of God and love of neighbor collapse, peace cannot survive. This writer reflects a recurring pattern in human history. Nations rise against nations, communities fracture, families break apart. The pain of division cuts deeply because it touches every level of life. Yet even this writer does not move independently. The Lamb opens the seal. Conflict is neither random nor unstoppable. It reveals the consequences of human choices and the need for reconciliation rooted in God. The third seal introduces a rider on a black horse holding scales. A voice announces extreme prices for basic necessities while luxury items remain untouched. This image captures economic injustice and scarcity. Famine follows war. Inequality deepens suffering. In Scripture, scales often symbolize justice, but here they reveal imbalance. Survival becomes expensive. The poor suffer most. Yet even in this judgment, restraint appears. Oil and wine are spared, pointing to God's mercy woven into discipline. This writer reflects both physical and spiritual hunger. When society drifts from God, scarcity spreads beyond food. Truth becomes rare. Hope diminishes. Yet God does not abandon his people. Provision remains. Grace persists even in hardship. The presence of restraint reminds us that judgment is not God's final word. The fourth seal releases a pale horse, ridden by death with Hades following behind. Authority is given to bring death through sword, hunger, disease, and wild beasts. This writer gathers the effects of the previous seals into a single image. Death is the ultimate consequence of sin. Creation itself suffers under its weight. Yet even here, authority is limited. Only a portion of the earth is affected. God sets boundaries. Destruction does not reign unchecked. This image confronts humanity with its mortality and the seriousness of rebellion against God. Death is not natural in the sense of being intended. It is the result of separation from the source of life. Yet even death does not escape God's redemptive plan. The Lamb who opens the seals is the same Lamb who conquered death through resurrection. The fifth seal shifts the focus from earthly events to a heavenly perspective. Souls of those who were slain for their faith appear under the altar, crying out for justice. Their deaths were not accidents, they were sacrifices. The Greek word used to describe their death carries sacrificial meaning. Like offerings placed upon the altar, their lives were given in faithfulness to God. Their cry echoes the voice of Abel, whose blood cried out from the ground after he was murdered. Scripture affirms that injustice leaves a mark on creation. God hears the cries of the oppressed, yet the response given to the martyrs is not immediate vengeance. They are given white robes, symbolizing purity and vindication, and they are told to rest. Justice is certain, but it unfolds in God's timing. This scene reveals the tension between justice and mercy. God does not ignore suffering. He remembers every act of faithfulness. At the same time, his plan encompasses more than immediate retribution. Redemption is larger than revenge. The martyrs are not forgotten. They are honored, and their story becomes part of God's unfolding purpose. The sixth seal unleashes cosmic upheaval. The earth shakes, the sun darkens, the moon turns red, stars fall, the sky recedes, mountains and islands shift. These images draw directly from the prophetic language of the Hebrew Scriptures. They signal divine intervention. They describe moments when God reveals his presence in overwhelming ways. This is not mere destruction. It is decreation, the unraveling of the corrupted order. The language echoes Genesis in reverse. Light gives way to darkness. Stability collapses. Creation groans under the weight of sin. Humanity, stripped of false securities, is forced to confront its vulnerability. Power and status offer no refuge. Only alignment with God provides hope. Yet even in this terrifying scene, protection appears. God marks his people. Judgment and preservation move together. The purpose is not annihilation but transformation. Creation is shaken so that it can be renewed. The seventh seal introduces silence. Heaven grows quiet. This silence is heavy with meaning. In the Hebrew tradition, silence often precedes divine action. On the Day of Atonement, the people waited in silence as the high priest entered the holy place. Silence reflects reverence, anticipation, and readiness. Here, silence answers the cries of the martyrs. It signals that God has heard and is about to act. Prayers rise like incense. Judgment and mercy are weighed. What follows will not be impulsive. It will be precise, measured, and purposeful. Silence marks the threshold between petition and response. Taken together, the 7 seals reveal a God who is neither distant nor careless. History unfolds according to divine intention. Human choices matter. Suffering is real, yet nothing escapes God's sovereignty. The Lamb remains at the center of it all. These patterns repeat across generations. False peace rises and falls. Conflict erupts. Scarcity spreads. Death reminds humanity of its limits. Faithful witnesses suffer. Creation reacts to sin. Silence prepares the way for renewal. This rhythm does not end in despair. It leads toward restoration. Scripture consistently presents time as meaningful. There is ordinary time, marked by daily life, and there are appointed moments when God acts decisively. Revelation reveals how these moments break into history. The seals are not a checklist for fear. They are a revelation of hope rooted in God's control. The Lamb who opens the seals is the same Lamb who redeems, heals, and restores. His authority ensures that suffering will not have the final word. Justice will come. Mercy will prevail. Creation will be renewed. In a world that often feels unstable, this vision offers reassurance. God is not surprised by history. He is guiding it. Every tear is seen. Every prayer is heard. Every act of faithfulness matters. The seals call for awareness, perseverance, and trust. They invite humanity to align with God's purposes rather than resist them. They remind us that true security does not come from power, wealth, or control. It comes from belonging to the Lamb. As history moves forward, the rhythm continues. Judgment and grace remain intertwined. The story does not end with the seals. They prepare the way for victory, restoration, and the renewal of all things. The Lamb reigns. Creation is reclaimed. Hope endures.